What does it mean to define nothing, yet control everything? Why did Machiavelli believe that the most powerful people in history were the ones who refused to be pinned down? And what can we, in our modern world of politics, business, and personal relationships, learn from his timeless tactics? Today, we dive deep into the heart of Machiavellian philosophy, a guide not just for princes and kings, but for anyone who seeks influence, strategy, and power in a world that constantly tries to control you. 1. Who was Machiavelli? Niccolò Machiavelli was a man shaped by chaos. Born in Florence in 1469, he lived during a time of endless political turmoil, betrayal, and war. Italy was not a unified country then. It was a battlefield of city-states, each fighting for dominance, each one vulnerable to foreign invaders and internal conspiracies. Machiavelli served as a diplomat and advisor. He saw firsthand how fragile power could be, how quickly alliances shifted, how even the most beloved leaders could be betrayed. Out of these brutal observations, he wrote The Prince, a book that shocked the world. In it, he stripped politics down to its bones. No romantic ideals, no illusions, just cold, practical truth. To Machiavelli, survival meant strategy, leadership meant control, and morality, it was a tool, not a rule. One of his most subtle yet powerful principles was this: define nothing, control everything. 2. What does define nothing mean? At first glance, it sounds mysterious, even paradoxical. Why would refusing to define yourself give you more control? Machiavelli understood something essential about human nature. Once you label yourself, once you define your position too clearly, you become predictable. And predictability is vulnerability. A politician who swears absolute loyalty to one cause or faction becomes a prisoner of it. A leader who defines themselves too rigidly cannot adapt when the winds of fortune change. To define nothing is not to be empty. It is to remain fluid, adaptable, unpinned. It is to avoid being trapped by labels, by ideology, by other people's expectations. 3. Control everything. Now comes the other side of the equation. Control. If you define nothing, you create a mystery around yourself. People cannot predict your next move. They cannot anticipate your strategy. And because of this, you hold the advantage. Control, in Machiavelli's eyes, was not brute force alone. It was psychological. It was the power to make others dance to your rhythm, while you never reveal the full extent of your own tune. Control is influence. It is the ability to shape outcomes without showing your hand, and those who master it are rarely the loudest or most obvious leaders. They are often the most elusive. 4. Historical examples. Consider Julius Caesar. Before crossing the Rubicon, he never fully declared his ultimate ambitions. He presented himself as a servant of Rome, even as he quietly positioned himself for supreme control. Or Napoleon Bonaparte. He often left allies and enemies alike uncertain of his true intentions, shifting strategies, never letting anyone fully define him. His unpredictability was his weapon. Even in modern times, leaders who refuse to define themselves too narrowly, who remain elusive, adaptable, and mysterious, often control the narrative. They create curiosity, fear, and respect. 5. The psychology of ambiguity. Why does this work? Because the human mind craves certainty. We want to know who someone is, what they stand for, what they will do next. When a person refuses to give us that clarity, our minds obsess over them. Ambiguity creates fascination. Mystery draws attention. Unpredictability keeps people off balance. This is why the one who defines nothing ends up controlling everything, while others try to interpret, guess, and react. The undefined person remains in charge of the game. 6. Modern applications. So, how do we use this in today's world? In business, if you are too obvious with your plans, competitors will counter you. If you reveal nothing until the right time, you control the market. In relationships, people often chase what they cannot fully define. Mystery creates attraction. Certainty, while comfortable, often breeds boredom. In leadership, a leader who refuses to be fully boxed in, who can adapt, change tone, shift strategy, maintains power even in crisis. In personal growth, by not locking yourself into one rigid identity, you remain free to reinvent yourself. You avoid being trapped by the expectations of others. 7. Common mistakes. But beware, misusing this principle can backfire. Some think defined nothing means being vague, dishonest, or untrustworthy. That is not Machiavelli's teaching. He did not advocate for lies without purpose. He advocated for strategic flexibility. The goal is not to deceive endlessly, but to avoid becoming predictable prey. Another mistake is defining nothing without controlling anything. That leads to emptiness, not power. The balance is crucial. Mystery without influence is just confusion. 8. How to apply this in your life. 1. Stay unpredictable. Don't reveal your every move. Keep your long-term goals private. 2. Adapt quickly. Be willing to change course when circumstances demand. 3. Avoid labels. Don't let society, politics, or even your past lock you into one definition. 4. Use silence as power sometimes. Saying less creates more control. 5. Control the narrative. Even while defining nothing, shape how others perceive you through subtle actions. 9. A world that defines you. Think about this. The world today constantly pressures you to define yourself. Social media asks for labels. Politics demands sides. Society wants categories. But Machiavelli's wisdom whispers differently. The moment you define yourself too clearly, you give others the blueprint to control you. So, refuse to be caged. Refuse to be predictable. Stay fluid. Stay elusive. Stay mysterious. 10. Closing reflection. Define nothing. Control everything. It is more than a tactic. It is a mindset, a way of walking through life without being trapped by others' definitions. Those who understand this principle shape history. They command respect. They wield influence without chains. Machiavelli's lesson is as sharp today as it was in the Renaissance. Power belongs not to the one who is most defined, but to the one who refuses to be defined at all. So, ask yourself, in your life, your career, your relationships, are you defining too much and controlling too little? Or will you master the timeless tactics of Machiavelli and step into true power?